We have just about 1 hour, and we're going to start by giving each candidate 5 minutes to introduce themselves and say whatever they need to say. As you get close to the end of the 5 minutes, if you need that, I do have some signs that will indicate the amount of remaining time, minute, 30 seconds, and stop. Following that, we will just open up to questions from anybody who's viewing today and go in kind of alternating order in terms of who answers first. Questions should really be addressed so that both candidates can respond to them. And so with that, I will introduce Paul Harper and Keary Husain. I'll let them introduce themselves in the opening 5 minutes. And going alphabetically by last name, I'll start with Paul Harper.
Oh, that was a close one. Yeah. Hi, my name is Paul Harper. I think a lot of you actually know me. I'm the father of two daughters. Both of them have now graduated. The last one since I got on the school board. Education has been something I've been involved in my entire life. I was a teacher in Jefferson City, special education teacher after getting my master degree here at the in education here at the University of Missouri. I actually student taught at Rockbridge High School. Before that, I did some other educational things. I substitute teacher taught. I worked in group homes. Um, and then I decided I didn't want to be a teacher and went to law school. Since then, I've been an attorney working for the state. I've worked across multiple departments. Most notably, here I was the general counsel for the Missouri State Auditor. During my 7.5 years there, I participated in audits, including audits of local political subdivisions and school districts, and have a pretty broad government experience. I'm currently the vice president of the school board. I've also been policy committee chair for my entire time on the board. As policy chair, we undertook an extensive review of all of our policies and procedures. And since I started, we've reviewed over 200 policies. We have about 300 policies at the school district. Um, I'll yield my time so people can have more questions.
Okay, thank you. Keary.
Hello, everyone, and greetings, and thank you so much for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here. Um, my name is Keary Husain. I am born and raised Colombian. I was born at University Hospital and am a proud product of Columbia Public Schools, uh, K through 12. Went to Fairview Elementary School, West Junior High School, and graduated from Hickman High School in 1991. My family has actually been in Columbia for nearly 70 years. My grandfather was legendary Hall of Fame football coach Dan Devine, who was brought here in 1958
Whoa.
by Don Farrow to coach the Tigers. He brought his whole family, my mother and her 6 siblings, who all attended Columbia Public Schools. All in all, 17 members of my family, including my brother, some cousins, and my mom's siblings, all attended Columbia Public Schools. My mom is the anchor who has never left since then. And I have now 3 children in the district. After graduating high school, I went on to the University of Notre Dame and then on to Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit. I found my way back to St. Louis after graduating med school, and I did my general surgery and critical care training at Washington University School of Medicine and Barnes Hospital, and remained on their faculty for about a decade. Recently moved back to Columbia, my hometown. It was serendipity that sort of brought me back here. It wasn't necessarily in my long-term, lifelong plan, but I'm thrilled to be back. In doing so, I am a single parent, and that was part of it. My ex-wife, my twins mother, is a cardiac surgeon who was offered a great job at the University of Missouri as a heart surgeon, and she's remarried, and we're all co-parenting well. We all came back. my son, his mother passed away, so he's been with me this whole time. So now I have 3 kids in the district, and when I came back, I sort of took a step back from the 100-hour grind of academic trauma surgery. I'm a trauma surgeon, and and so I'm doing some consulting on the side. I'm traveling around rural areas in Missouri and helping them with their trauma services and becoming a more streamlined to take care of the trauma victims around rural areas. And as soon as I decided to make the trip back to Columbia, I decided I needed to become involved in local politics or get involved in my community. My beloved hometown, which I had been gone from for a couple decades. So the first thing that came to my mind was school board. I'm currently on the board of the PTA at Mill Creek Elementary School, where my daughters go to school, and I was recently elected to the board of the reestablished Columbia citywide PTA, which sort of got sidetracked during COVID, and now we've reestablished it. So I'm a member of that board as well. And honestly, that's education has been my passion. That was my academic focus. I was the associate program director for the general surgery residency and the surgical critical care fellowship at WashU, and was on national committees for education. And it's just something that's my passion with my kids in the district and wanting to help out and being a proud product of CPS, giving back. And now I have the time. You go from 100-hour weeks to consulting and a little traveling on the side. So this is where I want to spend my time. And I'm just grateful to be here, and I look forward to further discussion.
Okay, thank you, Keary. Who's got a question? Herb Tillman has a question. Herb, go ahead, and Keary will answer first.
Thank you both for offering your services for this very important element of local operations. I would like to ask you, assuming that you see the relative accomplishments of Columbia Public Schools as I do, as a mixed bag, relatively well compared to nation and world in some regards, less so in others. What do you each personally see as areas of accomplishment that we must work to keep going, and areas that we do think we deserve our close attention and new ideas to try to improve?
Keary, please, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. And I agree with you. When I was growing up in Columbia Public Schools, nationwide, we got the accolades of being one of the top public school systems in the country. There were signs being placed around all the schools. Columbia was considered by, U.S. News and all these magazines one of the top places to live in the country. And I still believe that. I will tell you that I have been on record long before I decided to be on the school board or to try to run for school board, of being grateful for my education. And I am where I am today because of my teachers in Columbia Public Schools. I was able to compete at a Ivy League level school with kids from the East Coast who were from $30,000 prep schools without a problem. I think we have incredible teachers. One of the things that I really think is great about CPS is the diversity. When I got to Notre Dame, people were shocked that I had friends who were Black and Asian and Latino, and I went to school with girls. They all went to all these white prep schools, all boys. So I think we have extraordinary teachers. I think that we provide an incredible curriculum, and we have great diversity. Now, what can we do differently? I think there's some inequity a lot that is involved in Columbia and Columbia Public Schools. Our PTA bank account at Mill Creek has $30,000 in it. I've had teachers from West Boulevard or other schools come up to me crying, saying we don't have a PTA. We don't have anything to to do for our teachers and our kids. I think that we need to fix that problem. I think across the board, if Mill Creek has all the options, then so should West Boulevard. And I'm just using those two schools as an example. I think that so equity across the board is important to me. I think that we should. There's some issues that we are dealing with bullying. I think is a problem. A lot of my friends, I'm running kind of a grassroots campaign. Some of my friends have come up to me and said we need to fix the bullying problem. And I will give. I've done this throughout. I will give Paul and his committee all the credit. They've been working on the policy. I've sat in the back of the room and watched their committee work on it. So I know it's being done, but it's something that needs to be continued. And frankly, and we can get into this more, I think that education in general is under attack in this country. And so I think continuing a positive curriculum that teaches history as fact, the way it happened, respecting the scientific method and not questioning science. I'm a scientist. I've published numerous peer-reviewed articles. It's always changing. We're always learning, but the scientific method has to be respected. The arts need to be funded. We can't defund the arts. Kids need to be able to play sports. They need to be able to be in the school play. They need to be able to be in the band. We need to be able to let our children read the books that have been written, book banning and that kind of stuff. So I think maintaining a strong curriculum is really important. So those are just a few of the things. And again, the last thing is hiring and retaining the best teachers possible. I have no doubt that when I was growing up and throughout time, Columbia Public Schools has focused on hiring the best teachers. I understand that retention is a problem across the country, but that has to be a primary focus. We can't have a good education without good teachers. And we need to provide them with benefits, and we need to provide them with the opportunities and resources to give our kids the best education possible.
Thank you. Paul.
Well, I think the biggest strength in the Columbia Public Schools is the community as a whole. We've got a great community, we've got a caring community, and we've got a lot of community partners that help us with our students. Another of our biggest strengths, I think Keary actually hit partially on this, is the number of programs we do have. We have between being able to send kids to the Missouri area community college or Moberly area community college, being the career center has so many options for our students. Our students our students on the top end are doing actually really well. We beat the state averages on the ACT, for example. What the data shows as far as our issues are. One of the issues is that data shows that we've got some serious academic challenges and disparities among some of our schools and our student populations. Quite frankly, as Keary alluded to, we've got some schools that are doing very well, and we've got some schools that we've got students that are struggling. That being said, anytime I talk about the numbers, I want to say that we must keep in mind that our students aren't just our numbers. We've got great students in every school. Our schools are our students and our teachers, and we've got great students, and they are working very hard, even if those numbers are showing aren't showing that they're where they should be, and that's on us, not on them. But there are some great students. Another issue we have is of course, this is nationwide. We have a problem with keeping professionals and hourly employees. We need to not only work on compensation, we need to work on culture and ensuring that we have the policies, procedures, and culture and everything else in place to make a great workplace for our teachers. Our teachers' workplace are our students' learning environments. If we don't get our teachers' workplace right, we are not getting our student learning environments right. So what do we have to do? We've started some of that process. We've sent out the climate survey. We're in the process of doing that, but we really need to work on those softer areas because, quite frankly, even if we have the highest pay and the worst culture, people will still leave. So we need to make sure we're doing that. We are at a time where people are losing trust in our institutions. One of the things that I believe we need to do, we've started doing some, but quite frankly, it's not enough, is communications. We don't always communicate our positives or our negatives with people. What we need to do is we need to have honest, clear, and timely communications to all of our constituents across the community. Without those clear communications, we can be as transparent and as good at everything as possible, but nobody would know. And at the same time, people don't know some of the things that we are doing to try to improve because our communications are not up to snuff. I believe we need a thorough communications plan that goes across social media and every other aspect from that. And finally, like most districts, we are seeing an escalation of student behaviors. There's an increase in bullying, as Keary referenced. We do have disparities in that aspect too between student groups, and we need to get a better handle on that. While we've started that process, it's obviously not enough because those disparities, while the numbers are looking good, the disparities are remaining the same. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at our processes and what we're doing and making sure that we improve on what is going well and scrap what is not.
Thank you. David Robinson. David?
First, I want to recognize that we do have media present. We have Annie from Columbia, Missourian, and we like to make notice of our candidates president. Obviously, we have two at this forum, but I do believe Bethany Mann is with us. And if I'm not mistaken, she is a candidate for Congress. So welcome. Well, maybe she's gone off.
No,
There she is.
Moving on the screen.
Okay, so we welcome you, Bethany, and stick around afterwards if you have anything to say to us. That'd be great. Okay, Mike.
Sure will. I appreciate your school board candidates. Thank you guys for stepping into the ring. I really look forward to what you all bring to the district and to your communities. So thank you for serving.
Okay, with our candidate and media introductions aside, I'll just ask a kind of follow-up question. Both candidates come here with a lot of great qualifications. I'd like you to pick something before school board about your professional or personal experience that you want to tell us about that might convince us that you're the person to help on the school board at this time. That is anything about or the opportunities that you can reflect in your experience before school board. And I guess the person up this time is Keary, right?
Paul,
sorry.
That's all good. Well, all right. So I'll just go in. Right now I'm actually an attorney for DESE. I do have to watch out for some conflicts of interest, but for the most part, I predominantly work with early childhood, but I do consult across a number of departments. So I'm very conversant in education and law. Before that, I of course, as I alluded to earlier, I was Nicole Galloway's general counsel for all but the last few months of her time at the auditor's office. I During that time, there was only one audit I did not look at, and that was a MoDOT audit because my wife works at MoDOT and it involved her division. That was the only audit in the entire time I was there. The 140 something audits every year, I reviewed them, worked on them, worked with staff to ensure that the legalities of them were right. I also oversaw the for the Hancock Amendment for local governments. There is a process by which local governments have to equalize their revenues and reduce their rates to not create a windfall when property values go up. I was actually oversaw that process for the auditor's office. Everybody has to run their property tax through a formula that shoots out and says the highest amount that can be taxed. I actually oversaw that process for 6 out of the 7 seasons that I was there. I've been a teacher. I have a master's degree in special education, um, and have a lot of experience in it.
Harry?
Thank you. Yes, so as I kind of alluded to earlier, education has been my primary passion my entire adult life and in my entire career. Um, when you're at a major university as a professor, you're expected to develop an academic focus, and mine was education. As the associate program director for the surgical residency and the critical care fellowship, I was responsible for the recruiting and education of some of the brightest minds in the country. Granted, these were adults who had already gone through their primary and then college, medical school, but you're still helping mold the future of medicine in the country. Also, as a faculty member at WashU, I was responsible for teaching the medical students. I had various levels of different types of topics I had to teach, but I also created and fostered a a program where we did kind of a mini med school for high school kids who were interested in going into the healthcare profession. So during the summers, we would have lectures and hands-on experience where high school kids would come from across the country to St. Louis, to WashU, and and who were interested in going into medicine, and we would do lectures, and then again, like I said, hands-on stuff. Since when I was in St. Louis, I lived in Clayton, which is considered one of the best or top school districts in the state. I was involved in PTAs. I was involved in the school system there. I would do career days. I would do local community stuff. And now, certainly, since I've moved back to Columbia, being part of the PTA, where you're literally supporting the teachers at your school, and now that I'm on the citywide PTA, the entire district supporting the schools and the teachers in their endeavors. One of my other passions, and it's something that unfortunately we're dealing with across the country, is I was part of the American College of Surgeons, and still am. I'm part of the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma, specifically focused on gun violence. That's one of my passions, is gun violence, not only in in the general community with gun violence regulation, that common sense gun laws. I've even developed what I call a gun owner's bill of rights, but really, as this focus is gun violence in schools, the tragedies that continue to plague us, um, so that's kind of something that's a passion of mine. But those are sort of the things. While most of my educational experiences have been involved in a sort of a narrow spectrum of teaching residents and fellows who are adults, the broad spectrum of education has been my entire focus. and I look forward to continuing to do that.
What you just talked about kind of dovetails with a chat question from Kathy Jensen. She asks, what do you think the school board can and should do to promote gun safety, both in schools and among CPS families? And I guess we go back to Keary to start.
Sure. So, like I said, gun violence is a important part of my life. Unfortunately, and I don't say this flippantly, but when I was a medical student in Detroit in the 90s, and at that point, Detroit was the murder capital of the country. I then came back to my home state of Missouri, St. Louis, and within a few years, St. Louis became the murder capital of the country. And please don't hold me responsible. But so I, as an inner city, big barns, downtown trauma surgeon, I dealt with multiple gunshot wounds and gun violence throughout every single day. And I think the gun violence in schools needs to start with a global policy of common sense gun laws. I think that we, like I said, I sort of put together my own sort of version of gun owners' Bill of Rights. I personally don't hunt, and but I do own a shotgun. I like to skeet shoot. I got into it when I was a resident. One of my buddies was like, "Hey, let's go out to this place," and it's fun. I enjoyed it very much. I'm not a big, so I'm not a anti-gun person, but I think that having, safety, mandatory safety education, mandatory locking of guns. I know that there's a group. I was at a school board meeting, and I know there's a group here in town that talks about safe locking up your guns. I think that you need to have a class. I've even gone as far as to say, if you're a gun owner, if you own a car, you can't drive it without insurance. Why not have insurance for gun owners? I also think that there are certain weapons that just don't belong in the community. I have no, it boggles my mind that a citizen thinks that they need to carry a military grade weapon when you don't shoot a deer with an AR-15. That the deer explodes. That doesn't do you any good. Obviously strong background checks and that kind of stuff. So as far as the schools, I know that we have metal detectors. It's a sad necessity, but I've been to Rockbridge a bunch of times to pick up my son or visit with the administration, and they certainly have. It's kind of just a thing that they're used to. I think resource officers. I think I just met with the new president, or the new principal of our newest school at Eagle Bluffs, who happened to be a classmate of my brother's back in high school. And they talk about the entire thing as a beautiful building, a lot of glass, but it's all bulletproof. I think so. While I'm convinced that it begins in the community, I think that having infrastructure in our schools that leads to safety, and then just education, education with gun owners who are adults, but then education with our kids about the devastation that firearms can cause. I think that they're an important part of our history and our culture. I am not an I believe in the Second Amendment, although I also am the first one to tell you that the founders didn't think of AR-15s when they thought of a one-shot musket ball gun that they used to defeat, King George. So anyway, I do think that there are things that we can do in the schools themselves, but also I think globally, from my standpoint, it begins with federal, statewide, and community education and common sense laws.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, I'll start with focusing on what we've done in the last 3 years to help promote that. This board has that I was a part of passed a safe storage resolution. As a part of that safe storage resolution, we want to ensure that we include information for parents and students related to safe storage of their weapons. You know, as Keary alluded to, I totally agree that a lot of these issues are actually state and federal issues. And so, but there are some things we can do, such as promote safe storage. We are in the process of doing public service announcement advertisement for safe storage. We're working on that with the school and the university to get that messaging out. We've hardened our buildings. All the glass has film on it that protects it from. Unfortunately, you know, we have to do this, but protects it from weapons being used against it. You know, we regularly have safety updates, and we have safety factors and procedures that we talk about. We have to talk about those in closed meetings because, of course, if we didn't, you know, people can try to get around them. But if you look at some of our closed meetings, you can see that we do get updates from our safety and security team, and we do work to make sure that we harden our buildings and do things. So while we have the metal detectors, it doesn't actually stop at the door to the building. You know, we try to do everything we can to keep our students safe. And you know, the one thing that keeps me up at night is a tragedy happening in our community. So talking about our community, this is our community. It's school district can't do it alone. We need to do a better job of reaching out to our community partners, the city, the county, the state, the various not-for-profits around the city that are working on these very things. We need to start doing more things as a community to get preventative. Right now, we're all very reactionary to everything that happens, and we're not doing enough work on the front end. We should, instead of right now, we're probably about 80% reactionary and 20% trying preventative. We should flip that. We should be 80% preventative and 20% reactive, and be working as a community on these things. While we have reached out, you know, we do have community partners. We can always do better. We can always get involved with our community partners and try to make for a safer community, because a lot of these problems are actually happening outside of the school buildings and being brought in. So the school district can't do this alone. And while, you know, we have relationships with our community partners, but they can be strengthened.
Thank you. Mari has a question.
Yes, thank you for being here today. My question has to do with property taxes. The legislature, both houses of the legislature, are considering multiple bills that would impact how property taxes are calculated, when the elections require that the elections on any tax increase be held at the November general election. Just a variety of provisions that I believe would impact funding for our public schools. So my question is, are you aware of this? And what role, if any, does the school board play in informing the public about such policies or weighing in the debate?
Is that me?
Yeah, I'll start with you, Paul.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I mean, one of the things that we've done in the last few years is we've actually gotten a lobbyist. So we have a lobbyist down in Jefferson City. We've also, one of the things that Suzette Waters does, because she's got extra time, is she actually goes down with our lobbyist a lot to try to talk about these bills. You're right. It's a huge problem for us because we are mostly locally funded. I mean, I think our federal funding is only like something like 8%. Our state funding is only like, it's in the teens, I believe, and everything else is locally funded. So if every hit we take to our local funding is a hit to our teachers, is a hit to our students, is our hit to our ability to do our routine maintenance of our buildings. So it is a problem. What we can do to get the information out, I think. Well, actually, let me backtrack. I don't know what the result of this legislative session is because right now it's very hard to determine which of the bad bills are actually going to pass the finish line. And I say that they're bad bills because they are. They will hurt us if they come through. Um, right now the one thing that is going to be hitting us is of course the senior citizen tax um, tax break. That's one of those that snowballs. This year, not a big deal. As time goes on, every year it's going to be a little higher, a little higher, a little higher until at some point it maxes out in the future. But that is probably that right now is one of the bigger problems. We estimate it could be, it's eventually going to be in the millions of dollars. And a small raise for our staff. We've got oh shoot, I just lost about 3,000 employees. So even a small raise for our staff is several million dollars. And if we lose several million dollars, it means that we won't be able to um, give those raises. It means we won't be able to stay competitive. It means that our students may not have the best teachers. I'm trying to think. Did I address everything there? It was a broad question, but I think a very important one with regard to the that. And as far as the tax base, we also have a problem with the governor is currently talking about eliminating both income tax and property tax. That happens, we've got no ability to fund our schools because we also know the chaos at the federal level. We may not be able to depend on that federal portion for those programs. So it's a problem. We're aware of it, but it's a little bit of chaos right now because nobody knows what the end result is going to be.
Keary.
Yeah, so I agree with what Paul was saying. So it's funny because just this morning I had a coffee with Suzette Waters. She was kind enough to reach out, and we just had some. She and I were 1 year apart at CPS. She was at Rockbridge, and I was at Hickman, and we know a lot of people in common. And of course, she's on the board and former president, and does go down to Jeff City. But this is one of the issues that we brought up. We were just talking about is the decrease in funds from the federal down to the state, and now we're at the local level. I actually am very close friends. Grew up with Dave Smith. You guys know him as David Tyson Smith. He's Dave to me, but I talk to him about this on a regular basis. He's sort of fighting an uphill battle, pushing the boulder up the hill, supposedly. But I think that the main thing is voting. We need to vote for common sense people who are understanding of the importance. I mentioned earlier about education being under attack in this country, and I think that that's part of it. I get, my mom is a senior, and I get that some tax relief sometimes can be helpful, but you have to be able to put your money where your mouth is when it comes to funding community services, and public schools is the same way. I told you I lived in Clayton, which is considered one of the top, if not the top, school district in the state. It was very expensive to live in Clayton. We paid for it. I knew six-figure income folks who lived in one-bedroom apartments so their kids could go to Clayton schools. I couldn't have, my home. I rented my home. I lived in an apartment and then I rented my home. But I get it. But that was important, and so you have to be willing to pay. But yeah, again, I think from the state level, we don't know what this legislation is going to happen. But I think that we need to make that a priority. I think it's wonderful that the board and the district have a lobbyist that can with a voice. I think we have some great. I also today's a busy day for me. I had coffee with Suzette. I just met with Greg Bush, and I'm meeting with Dr. Klein this afternoon. And I have you guys. It's wonderful. It's a great Friday. We have some wonderful representatives in Columbia who are pushing for, I think what we would all believe in is important community things, but that's we're a blue dot in the middle of a red state. My mom says her wonderful purple state has gone deep red, and that's a problem. And then from our standpoint, I think that one of the things that the three current members who are on the ticket, that they talk about when they came on, the transparency, and I think it's just continued transparency and communication from the board and the district to the community. I joke that I had a very hard time navigating CPS's website when I first moved back, trying to figure out some things. The board or the district has created a social media thing that I really was pushing for from the beginning. I said that I would send my teenage son to Aslan and have them put together a TikTok account and a Snapchat and a Facebook. My teenage son could do, and so that's happening and stuff. So I think that there's a lot of things, but it's a concern when you have a public school system and from a federal and a state level where you don't think that that's a priority, or they don't think it's a priority, but you're trying to push for hiring teachers, giving adequate benefits and adequate salaries, and the money keeps drying up. Where does it come from? I also think that there's a possibility. I'm just saying I do a consulting work, and we talk about budgets for every patient, pots of money and stuff. I think that looking very closely with the fine-tooth comb, auditing, forensically looking at the budget and just making every penny and every dollar stretch the best it can and trying to eliminate waste would be important. But I do think that as far as money goes, putting it towards teachers and students is the key.
Thank you. Alice, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you both for being here and being willing to serve. My question has to do with charter schools. Yesterday, the Kentucky Supreme Court overturned charter schools in Kentucky. They said that the Republican legislature, I guess it was passed in 2022, didn't have that authority. What's happening with the charter school case that we have against the state of Missouri? And if it goes to the Supreme Court, do you think it could possibly have broader implications for charter schools, the legality of it in Missouri?
Terry?
Yes, thanks. So obviously that's a hot button topic for us here. And I can't necessarily speak for, and I'm not sure how much Paul is allowed to say based on the ongoing lawsuit, but obviously we know that there's a lawsuit filed by the district against the state and again for the charter schools coming in. I will just go on record, and I've been on record. I think that public schools are the fundamental backbone of this country. I do not believe that charter schools should be a focus. I do not think that they should be able to take money, taxpayer dollars, away from public schools. I am firmly against that. I just need to make a caveat, because if you look at my website, you look at some of what I talk about. My brother, who is also graduate of Hickman High School, is the director of what they refer to as a charter school for at-risk youth in St. Paul, Minnesota. And they've obviously been dealing with some horrible stuff in the last month or so. But I want to be clear that that school is a public school. It is, they call it charter, but it's more like a magnet school. And so they literally take kids who are distressed and have been in juvenile hall or arrested or pregnant or, kicked out of other schools. And so it's a safety net school. It's not. So I just want to be clear that, I've had questions. How can you possibly be against, what's going on? Your brother is a charter school director. It's an unfortunate semantical thing. But anyway, and he would tell you that every penny needs to go to public schools and public education. But I will say this, there's two sides to every coin. And I think that we need to ask ourselves why some parents are so frustrated that they're wanting to take a voucher or take money and leave their school and CPS and go to, and they're welcoming, bring on the charter school. We all know there are those families out there. So listening to what their frustrations are and trying to address those is very important. You can't just say we don't want charter schools, they're bad, they're no good for public schools and stuff, because there are folks who are. I mean, I prescribe to a lot of, or subscribe to a lot of different right and left leaning, Facebook. There's a lot of people in Columbia who have some frustrations and are just chomping at the bit for a different option to come in. So we need to talk to them and ask them why. What can we do as a district to help you? But again, I'm against it. I know that there is the lawsuit. I'm in favor of the lawsuit. I don't think that private companies should be able to come in and just take taxpayer dollars and do what they can, because I think it's very detrimental to our public school education. But again, I really can't speak to the laws. I mean, I'm not in the back rooms, and but that's sort of where I stand.
Thank you. Paul, charter schools?
Well, I'm not going to talk. I won't talk about the lawsuit either. Not that I don't know anything about it, but our attorneys would kill me if I said too much on that respect. So let me talk about charter schools in general. One of the things we always talk about, and quite frankly, the people that are promoting charter schools are always saying that that they don't like that our public schools aren't transparent. Ironically, the statutory scheme that we have in Missouri does not mean that charter schools are transparent. In fact, they are less accountable to the public and are not transparent, nor do they need to be. There's no requirement for local control, for example, in our charter schools. There's no requirement for them to be overseen by anybody on the local level. So, whenever I talk about charters, I'm talking about the Missouri charter school statutory scheme. And quite frankly, I don't think it's good for Missouri. I think if we're going to have charter schools, they should be supported by either a publicly elected board locally or something that means that they are actually being overseen by people responsible to the taxpayers in that district. That's not the case in Missouri. You can have a charter school that has no tie to the local government at all.
Thank you.
And as far as the law, right now we've got charters. We've got a special law that's in Boone County. They're talking about expanding that. That's not going to be expanded because I think everybody acknowledges that our schools are actually the heart of our communities, and I truly believe that. Look on any given weekend, we've got sporting events, we've got competitions that you can go to. I believe that a couple weeks ago they were giving out, or not giving out. They had some meals for Mardi Gras that you could pick up at the Career Center. All of these things are great for our communities, and having these separate schools that are not controlled by the local community breaks our local community, and I am not for that. And I also agree with Keary, is that there are people who are dissatisfied with the school district. We haven't always done the best. We haven't always communicated the best with our people, and I think the way to fix that is to provide more community involvement in what we're doing. For example, in our strategic plan that's coming up, we're going to have listening sessions to allow the public an opportunity, or to give the opportunity to have input on what's important to the community for our long-term strategic planning. And we need to bring more people in and have committees of parents, committees of community members, in order to inform what is important to the community, because these are our community schools, and we should be focused on our community and what our community needs.
Okay, thanks. We're kind of running out of time. I want to get in a real quick one. If we could just have a kind of a quick answer on this. A legislator has offered a bill that would put severe penalties on teachers and school districts for discussing a fairly wide range of subjects without parental permission. And I know you're both against that. Don't have to ask that. But are there issues or topics that should require parental permission in order to be addressed in a classroom? Starting with Paul.
I mean, that is a tough question, because there are some things that are sensitive. I think what's important is that parents should know what's going on in the classrooms. Are there some right now? There are some things that we have to inform parents and give them the chance to opt out on. Quite frankly, most parents don't opt out of the things that they have the opportunity to opt out on. Things like the sex ed, and things like that. I have no problem informing parents of what is going on in the classroom and making them a part of the educational community, because we know as parents get more invested in their child's education, their children do better. And so we should be bringing the parents in as much as possible to that community.
Thanks, Keary.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember the big thing. A lot of things have changed since I was a kid, but I do remember the paper going home, whatever year it was. We're going to start in health class. We're going to start as Paul referred to, sex ed, and it's important that parents have the opportunity to understand. And I agree with Paul. A transparent discussion, explaining a curriculum. I saw in the chat someone talked about an educated citizenry. Hugely important. Let the parents know, transparent, say this is what we're going to talk about. I think the world is more global. I think that we have more, we're a more digitally, spread out world. There's a lot more than just our small community, but letting parents know what we're going to educate on, and giving them an option to opt out is fine. And I agree with what Paul said. Very few. I remember maybe two kids out of my, that went to a different room when we would get the videos, or back then they were movies about how the body works, and how the babies are made and born and stuff. But yeah, I think I agree with what he said. I think transparent communication and educating our parents and letting them feel like they have a voice is very important.
Thank you. Thanks for all the questions and the comments. Now we need to wrap up, and I think probably about 3 minutes apiece. We got 4 candidates, so I think a lot of the people that are in Muleskinners would like to support all of them. Can each of you tell me why we should vote for you? And I'll start with Keary.
Paul will remember this. I made a joke at a forum a few weeks ago that maybe we could legislate that a eighth board member just get created, and then we could all be happy, understanding that I have 3 excellent, hardworking incumbents that I'm up against. I just think so. I made it clear and I will make it clear again. I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for school board because I think I belong on the school board. I said my family has been here for almost 70 years. 17 members of my family have gone to CPS. We are invested in this. I'm a proud product. I tooted the horn of CPS when I was in college and medical school, and now that I'm home, and I clearly mean that, at 52 years old, I'm back home, and I'm thrilled to be here. I promise I have the time. That's one thing. I know it's hard work. My fellow candidates, they work very hard. I went from a 2.5 100 hour, 2.5 FTE 100 hour week to now having time to invest in this, and this is my investment to my community and to my children and to the other children of CPS. So that's one thing. I have the time to invest. I feel like I have the drive and the hard work. I'm a quick learner. I understand that I'm behind the 8 ball. I don't know as much as how the widgets are made. And in the board, but every new board member, when they come in, it starts from scratch. And I think that, I have the drive, the education, and the experience, my diverse background, and just my desire to help and improve on what I think is an incredible district, has been around for a long time, is doing great things, and I just want to be part of the building and the continued development of an incredible district. And I really appreciate the invitation, and I look forward to. I know you guys have a golf tournament at the country club where I'm a member of the country club. I live on the golf course, so maybe I'll come and maybe join you or at least cheer you on this summer.
Thank you. Paul.
All right. Thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. So when I ran 3 years ago, we were coming off of COVID, and quite frankly, most of our leading indicators were going down at that point. I think both because because we're done with COVID and because of things we put into place. Now the numbers are going up. I ran on ensuring that the teachers had what they need, the students had what they need, and that our district is accountable and transparent. I believe I've made a lot of progress in the last three years. The district has in general. We've increased salaries for all district employees, not just teachers, but our hourly staff. We've raised starting pay by over 9% in those 3 years, and I anticipate another boost again this year. We've improved compensation for summer school and extra duty days, making us more competitive. We've improved our district's overall annual performance report rating. When the year before I came in, it was at 70.0. We were on the verge of failing. This last year, it was 88.7. We've made tremendous strides in improving things. We are currently undergoing a comprehensive review of the curriculum and are passing, in every meeting, we are passing new curriculum for all subjects. Math wasn't doing too well. We've now provided for a new math program, and that math program seems to be doing better and increasing. We've increased the accountability of our district and community engagement. I ran saying that the bills should be published. For some reason, we weren't publishing the bills in the agenda. They are now being published on the agenda. We've now hired the district's first full-time general counsel to provide legal advice on site to help us with our regulatory issues. We've established regular listening sessions with board members to hear directly from families, teachers, and community members. We've reviewed over 200 district policies. I haven't talked much about policy, and normally I do. I love policy, and I think we've done a really good job on those policies that we have done. But we've got a little more work to do, and we will continue it, including the bully policy that Keary mentioned earlier. We appointed a special education task force to make recommendations for improvements to the special ed area, and we're starting to implement some of those. And we've implemented broadcasting and recording of all board meetings and board committee meetings. So I'd like to continue some of these things that we've been doing. I think we have some very concrete things that we've done that have improved the district, and I believe these things snowball. So as each year goes on, we're going to have a little more and a little more until we do have that district that's now getting a 95, 96 APR, and everybody agrees we are one of the top districts in the state, and I believe that can be accomplished.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul and Keary, and best of luck on April 7th. And also thanks Annie, Bethany, and Jenny for attending today. And all of you feel free to remain. We just have a short business meeting afterwards, and come back anytime.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yes, I add my thanks to our presenters today. And while Pam is setting up,